The moment Princess Charlotte lifted her hand and delivered that tiny, secret signal, the entire atmosphere inside Buckingham Palace shifted. A signal she was only supposed to use if she felt truly unsafe. And the reason behind it? A confrontation so shocking, so unexpected, that even the royal guards froze in disbelief. Why was Queen Camilla pulling Charlotte from school? Why were transfer papers waiting for King Charles' signature? And why did a 9-year-old princess have to outsmart one of the most powerful women in the palace just to protect herself? Before we dive deeper into this emotional royal shakeup, make sure you're part of our community. Tap like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who follows the royal family as closely as you do. It helps the channel grow and ensures you never miss these rare behind-the-gate stories. Ready? Let's break down exactly what happened that unforgettable afternoon. The palace was unusually quiet that afternoon, the kind of silence that felt almost staged, too still, too controlled. The guards along the East Gallery stood in their traditional positions, uniforms pressed to perfection, boots aligned with military precision. It was a normal Tuesday, or at least it was supposed to be. But then came the moment that would unravel the entire illusion of normalcy. Staff Sergeant David Mitchell was halfway through his rotation when he noticed something off. Something small but unsettling enough to tilt his instincts upright like antennae. At first, he thought his eyes were deceiving him. Children didn't wander these corridors alone. And royal children? Absolutely never. Every step they took was usually surrounded by protection officers, senior aides, or at least one familiar adult hand guiding them. But there she was, Princess Charlotte, standing alone, her blue and white school uniform still crisp from the morning, her ponytail slightly loosened, and her small shoulders trembling as if she'd been trying to hold herself together for far too long. Mitchell had seen many things in his 17 years of Royal Guard service. Foreign dignitaries losing their tempers, protesters storming the gates, even the occasional overexcited tourist fainting at the palace entrance. But he had never seen Princess Charlotte alone, and certainly never crying. Not the loud, dramatic tears of a tantrum. These were silent, controlled, the kind that meant, "I'm scared, and I don't know what to do." Mitchell's hand tightened around his rifle as he scanned the hallway. Something wasn't right. Something was happening here that shouldn't be happening. Before he could speak, Charlotte lifted her hand and made the signal. Thumb on her earlobe, index finger taps. Pause. Repeat. Mitchell froze. 2 years earlier, Princess Kate had personally briefed the guards about this exact gesture, a discreet emergency signal for her children to use if they couldn't speak freely, couldn't trust the adult near them, or they felt they were in real danger. The instruction had been clear. If a royal child uses a signal, you treat it as life-threatening. No hesitation. No debate. Mitchell stepped forward immediately, softening his voice. "Your Highness, are you hurt? Are you in danger?" Princess Charlotte looked up at him with tear-filled blue eyes and whispered the kind of sentence no guard ever wants to hear. "Mommy said to use a signal only if I couldn't find her, and I'm scared." Mitchell didn't need more than that. His training kicked in. His instincts snapped to attention, and his stomach dropped. "What happened?" he asked gently, crouching to her eye level. Charlotte hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting someone to peer. Then she blurted it out, quiet, shaky but clear. "Queen Camilla came to my school. She said George was hurt and Papa needed me." Mitchell's jaw tightened. That alone was a massive breach. Royal children were never removed from school without advance clearance, verified security codes, parental confirmation, and written authorization. Every pickup was logged, time double-checked. And this was none of that. Charlotte took a small, shaky breath. "But when we got in the car, she made a phone call. I heard her say George was fine." Mitchell's blood ran cold. A fabricated emergency? A false extraction? His voice remained steady, but internally he was burning through every scenario, every protocol, every threat model. "And where did she say she was taking you?" he asked. "She wouldn't tell me. She just said I wasn't going back to school. That Papa had already agreed. That she was moving me. Today." Mitchell understood immediately. This wasn't an afternoon visit. This was an attempted removal, a relocation, one with secrecy written all over it. "Where's Queen Camilla now?" he asked. "In the blue drawing room, waiting for papers to sign." The words hit Mitchell like a strike to the chest. Papers, signatures, urgency. Charlotte wasn't just scared. She was in the middle of something deliberate. He tapped his radio. "Security control, this is Staff Sergeant Mitchell. I have Princess Charlotte with me. Initiating code purple. Repeat code purple." There was a sharp silence on the radio. Then voices scrambled into action. Code purple meant royal child in potential danger. Code purple overrode every chain of command, every hierarchy, every hesitation. Control replied within seconds. "Sergeant, Princess Charlotte is officially logged at school. No authorized pickup from any member of the royal family. Parents are in separate public engagements." Mitchell's heart sank. So Camilla had no clearance, no authorization, no right. This was a rogue extraction attempt. Charlotte tugged on his sleeve. "Am I in trouble?" "No," Mitchell said softly. "You've done everything right. Everything." But behind his calm expression, urgency tightened his chest. A forged emergency. A sudden school removal. No parental consent. Papers waiting for the king. This was escalating faster than any train scenario. Within moments, Captain Richard Wells, tough, respected, former Special Forces, stormed down the corridor, fully locked into crisis mode. Charlotte flinched at the sound of his boots, but Wells' voice softened the moment he saw her. "Your Highness," he said gently, "you're safe. We've got you." Mitchell delivered the facts in crisp, soldier-like order. Wells processed them with the expression of a man who just heard the worst-case scenario and realized it was real. "We secure the princess," Wells said. "Then we notify the parents. Immediately." Charlotte swallowed hard. "Will Camilla be angry with me?" Mitchell exchanged a tense look with his captain. "No," he said firmly, "because you did the bravest thing you could have done. You told someone." But even bravery didn't erase the fear in her eyes. A 9-year-old had been caught in a political storm she never asked for. A guard had been forced to make a decision that could turn the palace inside out. A queen consort had triggered an emergency protocol not used in years. And all of it, every part of it, began with a small hand signal from a frightened little girl in a palace corridor. A gesture that changed the entire course of the afternoon. A gesture that would expose secrets, ignite confrontations, and force the royal family to face something they never expected from one of their own. And this was only the beginning. From the moment Charlotte whispered the truth, the palace seemed to inhale sharply, like a great beast sensing danger inside its own walls. The atmosphere shifted. Guards moved faster. Radios crackled more urgently. Every corridor felt suddenly narrower, every shadow a little darker. Something was happening, and everyone felt it, even if only a handful knew why. Captain Richard Wells was already on the move, his usual calm expression sharpened into controlled fury. He didn't run. Royal guards never ran unless the threat was visible and immediate, but he moved with a focused determination that sent staff members flattening themselves against the walls to clear his path. He had dealt with bomb threats, intrusions, and international security crises, but this, an internal breach orchestrated by a senior royal, that was a different kind of battlefield. Beside him, Princess Charlotte walked quietly, her small hand gripping Sergeant Mitchell's sleeve as if it were her anchor. Her earlier tears had dried, but the worry still clung to her expression like fog. She glanced behind them now and then, as if expecting Queen Camilla to appear suddenly, demanding she return to that car and that mysterious transfer. But as they made their way to a secure room on the upper floor, Mitchell noticed something else. A shift in the child's posture, a kind of resolve. She was scared, yes, but she understood something deeply. She had been targeted, and she had saved herself. Inside the secure room, Wells immediately contacted Palace's internal security center, his voice crisp, but carrying an edge Mitchell had rarely heard. "This is Captain Wells. Lock down all access around the blue drawing room. No one enters. No one leaves. Queen Camilla is to remain under supervised observation. Do not engage. Do not confront. Maintain distance until instructed. His words echoed through the room like commands in a war zone. Mitchell watched Charlotte, who sat quietly on a small floral sofa, hands clasped, legs swinging nervously. She looked like any 9-year-old in a moment of uncertainty, except she was part of the most scrutinized family in the world, and the person who frightened her was married to the king. Wells' radio buzzed. Captain, confirming Queen Camilla is requesting Princess Charlotte's location. She appears agitated. This time, Wells didn't hide the reaction. His jaw flexed, his eyes narrowing. She won't get it, he said coldly. Keep her contained. We await parental arrival. He turned to Mitchell. This goes above our rank. We hold position until the prince arrives. This is no longer just a security issue. It's a political incident. Mitchell nodded. He understood. Once the parents were involved, this would either explode or be buried. And judging by the severity of Charlotte's fear, explosion seemed more likely. Meanwhile, downstairs in the blue drawing room, Queen Camilla paced with visible impatience. Her secretary stood at the far side of the room, clearly uncomfortable, as if he'd been roped into something far beyond his pay grade. Camilla checked her watch again. They should have brought her back by now, she muttered. Where is she? She was supposed to wait in her room. Her secretary swallowed. Ma'am, perhaps security is verifying. Verifying what? Camilla snapped. It's a school transfer, not a national emergency. But even as she said the words, her tone was uneven, defensive. Deep inside, she knew what she'd done hadn't followed the rules, nor had it followed courtesy, tradition, or basic trust. She knew William and Kate would never sign off. She knew this had to be done quickly, quietly, before anyone realized what was happening. Her eyes snapped toward the door every few seconds. She was waiting for Mitchell to return with Charlotte, waiting for the moment she could present the papers she believed she could justify once they were already signed. But upstairs, the plan was already falling apart. Princess Charlotte sipped water from a small glass a staff member had delivered. She held it with both hands, concentrating hard, like drinking it properly might keep her calm. Sergeant Mitchell crouched in front of her again. Your Highness, he said softly, can you tell me the exact moment you felt something was wrong? Charlotte swallowed, then nodded. When she came to school, she wasn't smiling like normal. Not a real smile. It was the sort grown-ups do when they're pretending. And she kept saying we had to hurry. She didn't even say hello to my friends. Mitchell nodded slowly. Children noticed the details adults often ignored. Tone, body language, the difference between warmth and performance. What happened in the car? He asked gently. Charlotte's eyes dropped. She kept checking her phone. And she said I was going to be much happier once we got to the airport. Mitchell stiffened. That single word, airport, cut through the room like a knife. He exchanged a grave look with Captain Wells. Airport. This hadn't been an emotional outburst or a moment of poor judgment. This had been a plan. Charlotte continued, her voice trembling. She said Papa would understand once the papers were signed. She said I needed a fresh start. Mitchell didn't interrupt. He let her speak, let the words unravel. Sometimes children needed space to explain something traumatic. She said I had to learn to be more independent. That royal children used to be sent away all the time. She looked up, suddenly unsure. But Papa never said that. Mommy never said that. No, Mitchell said firmly. They didn't. Even Wells nodded in agreement. Charlotte shifted uncomfortably. Then, when she answered the phone, I heard her say George was fine. So she lied. She lied to make me leave. There was the moment Charlotte realized she wasn't being rescued from an emergency. She was being removed. And that's when you made the signal? Mitchell asked. Yes, Charlotte whispered. Because Mommy said, if someone lies to make you go somewhere, you don't go. Wells's voice came low and controlled. You did exactly the right thing. You may have stopped something very serious. Charlotte's shoulders sagged with relief and guilt mixed together. Meanwhile, downstairs, Queen Camilla had begun to sense something was wrong. Her pacing increased. Her questions became sharper. Her tone grew anxious. How long does it take to bring back one child? She muttered under her breath. Where is she? Her secretary checked his tablet nervously. Ma'am, security is asking everyone to remain in place. They've elevated. Elevated to what? Camilla snapped. She wasn't stupid. She knew palace security protocols. If they were delayed, if movement was restricted, if she was being contained, even politely, then someone had alerted William. And someone had alerted Kate. For the first time, her confidence cracked. She sat down abruptly, her breath catching in a moment of realization. If the princess had spoken, if anyone had questioned her story, if the forged document had been discovered, her entire plan was collapsing. Upstairs, the radio crackled again. Prince William arriving in 20 minutes. Princess of Wales in 40. Charlotte brightened instantly, her relief unmistakable. But Mitchell, Wells, and everyone in security knew the truth. The real storm hadn't even begun. Because Camilla's motive, whatever she wanted, whatever she planned, was finally about to be confronted by the two people she had underestimated most, William and Kate. And once they entered the building, nothing would stay quiet. The palace changed the moment Prince William stepped through its gates. Staff who had been whispering in hallways straightened instantly. Guards stiffened their posture. There was something unmistakable about the way William moved when he was furious, controlled, measured, but sharp enough that anyone standing in his way instinctively stepped aside. He didn't run. He didn't shout. But he walked with purpose, the kind that filled the air with electricity. Mitchell and Captain Wells could hear his footsteps long before he appeared at the end of the corridor. Charlotte did too. Her spine straightened, her small hand unclenched. And for the first time that day, fear loosened its grip on her expression. "Papa!" Charlotte rushed forward, and William dropped his knees, pulling her into a tight embrace. He held her with a kind of fierce gentleness, one hand cradling the back of her head, as if making sure she was really there, really safe. His jaw tightened, but his voice softened when he spoke into her hair. "It's okay, sweetheart. You did everything right. I'm here now." Mitchell stepped back, giving them space. Some moments were too personal to witness fully, even for a guard. When William rose, still keeping one protective hand on Charlotte's shoulder, the softness faded. What remained was steel. He turned to Wells and Mitchell. "Tell me," he said quietly. "Tell me everything. Now." Wells delivered the summary. Unauthorized pickup, false emergency, suspicious transfer plan, forged documents, intended transport to Switzerland, Charlotte's distress signal. Mitchell filled in the gaps, detailing everything Charlotte had described, every tone, every uncomfortable detail. With each sentence, William's face grew paler, not with fear, but with a cold, contained fury. "Where is she?" William asked. "In the blue drawing room, sir," Wells replied. "Under observation." "Good," William said, his voice low. "We'll address this properly." But before anything could proceed, another set of hurried footsteps echoed through the hall. Princess Kate. She appeared at the corridor's end, hair slightly tousled, still wearing her pale blue dress from the hospital event, her breathing uneven as if she had run more than walked to the palace halls. The second she saw Charlotte, her eyes flooded with relief. "Mommy!" Charlotte rushed to her mother, and Kate bent forward, scooping her up even though she was nearly too big to lift comfortably. She held her daughter tightly, eyes closed, her hand stroking Charlotte's hair in slow, steady motions. For a moment, nothing else in the world existed, just a mother and her frightened child. When Kate finally opened her eyes, she looked at William, then at Wells and Mitchell, and her expression shifted. "What happened?" she whispered. William gently placed a hand on Charlotte's back and took a slow breath. She was taken from school. Camilla tried to move her. Today, without us, without consent. Kate froze. Her eyes, normally gentle, flared with a wave of disbelief, and then something sharper. "No," she breathed. "Not my child." Mitchell had never seen her angry before. Not like this. It was a quiet anger, but deep, protective. The kind that didn't erupt, but settled like a storm building pressure. Charlotte clung to her mother's shoulder. "She lied, Mommy," she whispered. "She said George was hurt." And she said I was going away. Kate's arms tightened around her daughter, her entire frame reacting like she'd been struck. Where is she? Kate asked William. Her voice didn't tremble. It didn't break. It carried precision, like she already knew exactly how this confrontation would go, but needed a direction. Blue drawing room, William said. Kate nodded once. Good. The walk to the blue drawing room felt like moving through a pressure chamber. Guards stiffened. Staff stepped back. Everyone sensed what was about to unfold. By the time they reached the door, 2 guards stood waiting. Her Majesty is inside, sir, one guard said carefully. She has asked repeatedly for Princess Charlotte. Denied, William answered immediately. No access. The guards nodded. Wells opened the door. Inside, Queen Camilla sat with rigid posture, legs crossed, her pearl bracelet twisted tightly around her wrist. She stood the moment they entered, her eyes flicking instantly to Charlotte. Oh, thank goodness, she said with a breathy, almost relieved tone. There you are, darling. We need to finish our... Kate stepped forward. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But the room shifted instantly. No, Kate said. You don't speak to her. Camilla blinked, thrown off by the firmness. Catherine... William moved beside his wife. Their daughter shielded behind them. What were you thinking? William asked, his voice low but sharp. Taking my child. Without permission. Without notice. Camilla's jaw tightened. I was trying to help, she said, her tone defensive. That school is too public. Too open. I was taking proactive measures for her safety. Mitchell watched William's expression. He didn't yell, but his entire posture radiated contained rage. You lied to her, William said. You told her George was hurt. You frightened her. You removed her from school under false pretenses. That's not proactive. That's manipulation. Camilla exhaled heavily. You and Catherine baby these children. You shelter them too much. They need independence. This was for her future. No, Kate said sharply, cutting her off. This was for your control. Camilla stiffened. Kate stepped forward another inch. You tried to separate a 9-year-old girl from her parents. You used fear. You used lies. And you planned to take her out of the country. Do you understand how dangerous that is? How cruel? Camilla's lips pressed together. I had documents prepared. I was going to handle it properly. Wells spoke for the first time. Ma'am, the documents were forged. Camilla whipped her head toward him. They were not. They were, Wells said. Palace Legal is already confirming it. Mitchell saw the first real crack in Camilla's composure. You don't understand, Camilla insisted. I was doing what needed to be done. The children will be the future of this family. They must be raised properly. They are being raised properly, William snapped. By their parents, not by someone who believes she can remove them without consent. Camilla looked at him with a mixture of desperation and indignation. I was protecting her. Kate's voice cut through the air like a blade. You were protecting your own position. Silence. Kate's words hung in the room, undeniable. Camilla swallowed hard. You don't know what it's like, she said quietly, to live your entire life one heartbeat away from being irrelevant, to know that when William becomes king, everything changes. William stared at her, stunned by the honesty of the confession, tainted as it was. That doesn't excuse targeting my daughter, he said. Camilla looked at Charlotte, her expression softening. I didn't mean to scare her. Charlotte pressed her face against Kate's shoulder, refusing to look back. William saw it. Kate saw it. Camilla saw it too, and it crushed whatever argument she'd been clinging to. Just then, the door opened. King Charles entered, and the confrontation was no longer personal. It was official. It was royal, and it would have consequences. When King Charles entered the blue drawing room, the temperature in the air changed instantly. Conversations died. Movements halted. Even the guards near the door seemed to breathe more quietly. Charles wasn't angry in the way most people imagine kings to be. His expression wasn't fiery or loud. It was heavy, stern, and deeply disappointed. And that kind of disappointment cut far deeper. He looked at everyone in the room, then finally at his granddaughter. "Charlotte, my dear, are you all right?" Charlotte nodded without speaking, still holding tightly to Kate's hand. The child's eyes were wide, exhausted and weary, far older than 9. Charles's features softened for a moment, but the softness vanished the instant he turned to Camilla. "What," he said quietly, "have you done?" Camilla stood straighter, attempting dignity. "Charles, this is being taken wildly out of context. I was acting for her benefit." "Stop," Charles said sharply, raising a hand. "Before you say another word, I must ask you one question. Did you take Charlotte from school without William or Catherine's permission?" Camilla hesitated. "Not long, but long enough. I took initiative," she said. Kate exhaled sharply, and William's jaw tightened. Charles's expression hardened. That was not the question. Camilla's lips pressed into a thin line. "No," she said. "I did not have their permission." Charles nodded once. Slow, sharp, deliberate. "And did you intend to move her to Switzerland today? Without approval, without protocol, without her parents even being informed?" Camilla blinked rapidly. "I believed." "Did you?" Charles repeated, his tone dropping even lower. She closed her eyes briefly. "Yes." For a moment, everything stopped. Kate wrapped her arm around Charlotte. William stepped closer to his daughter. Mitchell felt a chill go down his spine. Captain Wells stood at rigid attention, already mentally recording every word. Charles stepped away from the group, pacing behind his desk like a man wrestling with something beyond anger, something closer to betrayal. When he turned back, his voice carried the quiet weight of finality. "Your access to the Wales children," he said, "is suspended effective immediately." Camilla's eyes widened. "Charles." "You will not approach them," he continued. "You will not contact them, and you will not make any decisions, formal or informal, regarding their education, their schedules, or their well-being." She stared at him, stunned. "This is outrageous." "This," Charles said, "is the consequence of your actions." Princess N, who had entered silently moments earlier, crossed her arms with clear disapproval. "Frankly, Camilla, you're fortunate this is staying within the family," and said, "If this were anyone else, the police would be involved." Camilla looked around the room, searching for someone, anyone, to back her, but no one met her eyes. Not William, whose protective anger radiated in waves. Not Kate, who held Charlotte with unwavering strength. Not even Charles, who simply looked tired. "I won't be treated like a criminal," Camilla whispered. Kate finally spoke, voice calm but edged in steel. "No," she said, "you weren't treated like a criminal. A criminal would be arrested." Camilla flinched. Charles gestured toward the door. "You may go," he said quietly. "There will be further discussions tomorrow. But for tonight, leave." Camilla stared at him for a long moment, her face pale with humiliation, before turning and walking out. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floor, the sound echoing with finality that hung in the air long after she disappeared. The room remained silent. Only Charlotte's soft breathing broke the stillness. Kate knelt beside her daughter, brushing a stray strand of hair from her cheek. "It's over," she whispered. "You're safe now." Charlotte nodded, but her voice was small. "Is she going to try again?" Kate tucked her daughter closer. "No," she said firmly. "She won't." William crouched beside them. "And if anyone ever tries to take you somewhere without us," he said, his voice steady, "you tell them no. You use your signal. And we will come for you. Always." "Understood." Charlotte nodded, this time more confidently. Across the room, Charles watched the three of them, his son, his daughter-in-law, and the granddaughter who had unknowingly walked into the center of a royal crisis. He approached slowly. "Charlotte," he said gently, "come here a moment." Charlotte stepped forward, hesitant but trusting. Charles knelt before her, which startled even William. Kings didn't kneel to anyone. But today, Charles wasn't speaking as a king. He was speaking as a grandfather. "I failed you today," he said softly. "I should have seen this sooner. I didn't, and I'm sorry." Charlotte blinked. "It's okay, Grandpa." Charles smiled sadly. It isn't, but I intend to fix it. He stood, placing a hand on William's shoulder, then Kate's. No more loopholes, he said firmly. No more blurred authority. No more chances for this kind of breach. Wells stepped forward slightly. With your permission, Your Majesty, we've already begun updating protocols. Good, Charles said. Then let's make them ironclad. The aftermath began that very night. By morning, every senior guard received an urgent briefing. By afternoon, the palace security manual had been rewritten. And by evening, all UK royal schools, Lambert included, implemented new procedures. 3 new layers of verification were added to all royal child pickups. Biometric scan of authorized adult. One-time daily code word provided by parents only. Cross-verification through palace control with voice ID. No one, not a monarch, not a consort, not a senior royal, could bypass those steps. For the guards, especially Sergeant Mitchell, everything felt sharper, stricter, more vigilant. In the briefings that followed, his name came up repeatedly, not as a footnote, but as the reason Charlotte was safe. Even Princess called him over during an event days later. You handled yourself with integrity, she said simply. Well done. For Mitchell, those words meant more than any medal. And then something unexpected happened. A small envelope appeared under Mitchell's door one morning. He recognized the handwriting instantly. Neat, slanted, careful, Princess Charlotte. Inside was a folded note. Dear Sergeant Mitchell, thank you for helping me when I was scared. Mommy says I was brave, but you were brave too. I'm glad I found you. I won't forget it. Love, Princess Charlotte. Mitchell read it twice, then pressed it flat and tucked it into his locker. He would keep it for the rest of his career. As for Camilla, her world shifted quietly but meaningfully. Her staff was reduced, her freedom of movement restricted, her influence trimmed back with precise, polite ruthlessness. Publicly, nothing appeared wrong. Privately, everything had changed. She was no longer allowed near the Wales children, no longer part of decisions involving them, no longer trusted with anything involving their care or schooling. And the rest of the family watched her differently now, not with hostility, but with awareness. One misstep had rewritten her place in the palace. But the real story, the one whispered among staff, the one the guards would tell in years to come, wasn't about Camilla. It was about a 9-year-old girl who remembered a tiny emergency signal her mother had taught her, about the guard who believed her immediately, and about the moment the palace realized that bravery doesn't always come from crowns or titles or power. Sometimes it comes from a frightened child doing the right thing, and the people who choose to protect her.